Chosen one, heaven has been silent for a long time, too long. But that silence just broke. You may not hear it with your ears, yet your spirit trembles because something has shifted in the unseen. The throne room of heaven is no longer quiet. The Ancient of Days has risen from his seat. The courtroom of eternity is now fully awake, and every angelic host has stilled. The scrolls are open, the fire is burning, and your name, your very name, is being spoken aloud in places no mortal foot has ever walked. Listen carefully, my child. This is not coincidence you are feeling. This is not your imagination running ahead of you. This is divine intervention arriving at the fullness of its appointed hour. Every battle you have faced, every misunderstanding that wrapped around your soul like chains, every sleepless night you spent wondering if God still remembered your name. He did. He saw every injustice. He heard every whisper spoken against you in the darkness. He watched every tear fall in the silent rooms where no one else was present. And now, after all of it, after every waiting season and every unanswered prayer and every moment of painful silence, he is no longer silent. There are moments in heaven when mercy stands and judgment bows. There are seasons when grace fights for you even when you have no strength left to pray, no words left to form, no hope left to hold on to. This is that season. God's voice has filled the courts of heaven, and the hosts are still. Every seraph, every cherub, every angelic being who stands before the throne has ceased its movement to witness what is happening in this hour. The atmosphere around the throne is different now. Something holy is in motion. Your name is echoing in those sacred chambers, wrapped in the fire of His holiness, lifted before every accuser that dared to speak against your purpose, your calling, your very identity. You are not forgotten, chosen one. You were never forgotten. You were hidden, not ignored. You were preserved, not abandoned. God does not bury His promises carelessly. He plants them deep in sacred soil, knowing that what is buried beneath pressure will one day rise with resurrection power. What looked like rejection was preparation. What felt like delay was alignment. What seemed like silence was God measuring the fullness of time with perfect precision. And now, in this exact moment, the Lion of Judah roars your defense, and creation holds its breath to hear the sound. You wonder why now, why this moment? After everything, why not sooner? Why not when the pain was at its sharpest? Why not when the accusations first began? Because the fullness of time has finally come. Because the slander has reached its limit in heaven's eyes. Because the patience of God, though vast and merciful beyond all human understanding, has a holy boundary that the enemy has now crossed. Those who mocked your obedience, who twisted your story in front of others, who did not know the full truth, who lied about your character and presented their lies as fact, they have now provoked the justice of the Most High beyond the point of restraint. And He is moved. Not because He is cruel, but because His love is fierce, and His covenant with you is unbreakable. You are His creation, His chosen vessel, His light meant to shine in a generation that desperately needs it. When darkness dared to touch you, heaven recorded it. When accusation came against your name, the angels took note of every word, and now that record stands before the throne not as evidence against you, but as evidence against everything that tried to destroy what God Himself called good. Every tear you cried in secret became legal testimony in the records of eternity. Every prayer you prayed that seemed to vanish into silence was preserved and catalogued, and all of it stands before the Judge who never errs, never forgets, and never fails the ones who trust in Him. The Spirit whispers into the silence of the chamber, "This one is mine. Do not touch what I have sanctified." The angels bow their heads in reverence. The enemy trembles before what he cannot stop. The Advocate, Christ Himself, has already spoken your name before the Father, and the verdict is being sealed in fire that nothing on earth or under the earth can extinguish. Vindicated. Let that word land in the deepest part of you. Let it reach past every layer of doubt that accumulated through the hard seasons. Let it touch the places where shame tried to set down roots. You are standing at the threshold of divine defense, and the one who defends you is not a man with limited power and partial knowledge. He is the creator of every galaxy and every grain of sand. Not a defense you earned through your own perfection, not a defense you fought for in your own strength, but one that was purchased before the foundation of the world was laid, paid for by the blood that still speaks from the mercy seat. God is not defending your reputation for your comfort. He is defending it for His glory because you carry His mark. You bear His name on your life, and heaven does not allow sustained mockery of what belongs to the Most High. The shaking you feel in this season is not destruction. It is repositioning. Heaven is aligning you with what justice has already declared over you. You may not see it fully yet, but the tide is already turning in the unseen realms. And what turns in the unseen always eventually shows itself in the visible world. As the prophet wrote in Habakkuk 3:13, you went out to rescue your chosen people, to save your anointed ones. You crushed the head of the house of the wicked, stripping him from head to foot. That crushing is happening now. In the spiritual places, in the invisible courts, in the heavenly records that govern what is released onto the earth. Type Amen. The courtroom of heaven is vast beyond any earthly imagination. Its floor is like crystal stretched across infinity, clear and perfect and catching the light of the throne in ways that human language cannot fully describe. Its walls shimmer with living fire that neither burns nor diminishes. Fire that is alive. Fire that is aware. Fire that responds to the presence of the one who sits above all things. The light within that place does not come from any created source. It flows from the throne itself, a light that reveals everything and hides nothing, a light that sees through every pretense and knows every hidden motive. And there, at the center of it all, stands the throne, the seat from which all justice flows like a river that never runs dry and never runs in any direction except toward righteousness. There is no corruption here. There is no favoritism, no delay, no whispered negotiations, no bending of truth to accommodate the powerful. This is the court of the perfect judge. And you, chosen one, you are not a bystander in this session. You are not someone who wandered in from the edges. You are the subject of heaven's current session. Your name has been written on the scroll before the King. The court is in session, and it is in session for you. And the accuser has entered the chamber. He comes with his carefully arranged records, with every failure you ever committed, every moment of weakness you thought had been long forgotten, every word you spoke in pain that you wish you could take back. He comes carrying the words that people used against you, words whispered in rooms you never entered, words spoken about you before audiences you never knew. He holds them up like evidence, speaks them into the holy atmosphere of heaven's court, as though they define who you are, as though a collection of your lowest moments constitutes the final word on your identity. Every time you were betrayed, every lie spoken against your character, every misunderstanding that painted your purity as pride or your quiet faith as weakness or cowardice. He has gathered them all, arranged them carefully, and now presents them as a case for your condemnation. He stands in that courtroom with the practiced confidence of one who has done this before, speaking as though your worst moments are your totality, as though the scars you carry are proof of your unworthiness rather than evidence of your survival. But the Father does not look as men look. He does not judge by appearances. He does not weigh evidence the way a human court weighs it, where the one who speaks loudest or most convincingly can sway the outcome. He peers into the depth of the heart, and what he finds there is not what the accuser describes. He knows the intention behind your pain. He understands the sincerity behind your broken prayers, the ones you prayed through tears when you could barely form words. He sees the faith you held onto in the dark. He sees what no human eye has ever been able to see in you, the real you, the you that was fighting to trust him even when trust cost more than you felt you had. And as the accuser presents his case, as he lays out every charge with the confidence of one who believes he has already won, Jesus, your advocate, steps forward. His robe still bears the stains of the cross. The stains are not a symbol. They are a statement. They say, this price was paid in full. His hands are raised, and the scars in his palms catch the light of the throne and scatter it across the chamber like truth that cannot be contained. His voice does not shout. It does not need to. When he speaks, eternity listens and does not interrupt. He says simply, I have paid for this one. The evidence is null. The price has been covered. Every charge, every accusation, Every word the enemy spent, ages collecting, every failure and every wound and every season of shame, covered by blood that heaven itself established as the final currency of justice. Blood that cannot be overturned. Blood that still speaks. The atmosphere in that courtroom shifts in an instant. Every angel stands at full attention. The light around the throne grows brighter, and every false charge begins to dissolve under the weight of truth that is holier than any accusation the enemy can carry. The very atmosphere changes. You are watching justice unfold in real time, not on earth yet, where you can see it clearly with natural eyes, but in the invisible realms that determine what is eventually released into the visible world. The accuser is persistent. He is nothing if not persistent. He points again to your past, to your seasons of silence, to the prayers you gave up on too soon, to the times your faith wavered and your courage failed. They failed, he says, they doubted. They complained, they sinned. He says it with the conviction of someone who believes repetition can change what has already been decided. But the advocate only smiles. He holds up his hands, and the scars gleam like lightning against the eternal light of the throne room. And I forgave, he says. The sound that follows is not thunder. It is something more absolute than thunder. It is finality. The judge leans forward, and his eyes burn with a mercy that has no limit and no end. Was my grace not sufficient? Was my blood not enough? The enemy has no answer. There is no answer that exists in any language in any realm. Because where grace reigns, condemnation dies. Every charge collapses. Every accusation loses the power it needed to stand. The gavel strikes, and justice flows like a river breaking through every dam the enemy constructed. It is done, type he paid for me, chosen one. Do you know that your prayers are still alive? Every prayer that seemed to disappear into silence, every cry lifted in the dark that received no immediate answer, no response, no sign that the words made it past the ceiling of the room where you wept, they were never lost. Not one of them. The book of Revelation speaks of golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of the saints, held before the throne, warm, alive, preserved by the hands of angels who understand that these prayers are more precious than any earthly treasure. As John wrote in Revelation 5-8, the 4 living creatures and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb. Each one had a harp, and they were holding golden bowls full of incense, which are the prayers of God's people. This is not metaphor. This is heaven's record-keeping. Not one of your prayers has evaporated into meaninglessness. Not one night of weeping went unrecorded by the one who counts every tear, every desperate cry at midnight, every whisper through tears when the words would not form properly, and you could only groan in the spirit. Every prayer you prayed and immediately wondered if it went anywhere at all, they are in those bowls. Still warm, still active, still being presented before the throne of the one who promised that not a single word of faith prayed in his name would return to him empty. And now, in this courtroom, those prayers stand as evidence in your favor. Your history of faithfulness in prayer, even through the seasons, when you doubted whether prayer was doing anything at all, is being counted as righteous testimony before the judge of all creation. You prayed when you did not feel like praying. You sought him when seeking was exhausting. And heaven kept a record of every moment of that faithful seeking. The angelic scribes are recording what happens in this chamber. Your name is being cleared in the spiritual records, the same records that govern what is released onto the earth. The scroll that once carried accusation against you is being overwritten with truth. Line by line, every false charge answered by the blood of the advocate who stands in your defense. Every chapter in which men slandered your name and called their slander righteousness is being revised by the author of your destiny, who has always known the truth about you and has never revised his opinion of you based on what others said. The ink that rewrites your story is not ordinary ink. It glows. It burns with holy permanence. It cannot be erased or altered by any earthly power or any spiritual force below the throne. This is why you felt such pressure in the seasons before this one. This is why everything seemed to come apart at once. Why circumstances seemed to converge against you in ways that felt too specific to be accidental. You were not being punished. You were being examined, and the examination was serving the verdict. The courtroom had to hear both sides before judgment could fall, because justice requires that every charge be heard and answered. God allowed the accuser to speak, not because he agreed with any of it, but because the perfection of divine justice demands that every accusation be fully exposed before it is fully dismantled. Now that the accusations have been heard in their entirety, they are being publicly dismantled in the realm that governs earth. When heaven rules, earth must follow. There is no earthly power, no human system of opinion or influence, no spiritual darkness that can override a verdict spoken from the throne. When God says innocent, no slander can survive. When he says mine, no darkness can reclaim what he has sealed with his own name. Type my tears are evidence the false judgments that followed you have reached their end, my child. The labels that people placed on you without once asking heaven first. The conclusions they drew without ever genuinely seeking to understand your heart. The stories they told about you that had nothing to do with the truth of who you are. They are being overturned in the courts above. You carried those labels like weight you could not set down. You walked beneath the shadows of misunderstanding for longer than you should ever have had to walk there. You lived with the constant discomfort of being misread, being reduced to a version of yourself that you did not recognize, being dismissed by people who saw your quietness and interpreted it as having nothing to say. You tried to explain yourself and found that some people had already decided who you were before you opened your mouth. You held your peace and were answered with more silence, more misrepresentation, more distance. And still you held your peace, because something in you, some settled knowing placed there by God himself, told you that your defense did not belong to you. It belonged to him, and he was watching. Through every cruel word spoken in your absence, through every whisper passed from one person to another in rooms you were not invited into, through every misinterpretation of your kindness as weakness, through every moment when your faith was mocked by someone whose understanding could not reach far enough to see what faith actually was, God was watching every single moment. He saw what you chose when retaliation was available. He saw what you said and what you withheld. He saw the private prayers you prayed for the people who were hurting you, and he wrote it all down. For every time you held your tongue instead of defending yourself in the flesh, heaven added a line to your record, remained faithful under accusation. For every betrayal you absorbed without retaliating in kind, heaven inscribed another entry, trusted God when silence was misunderstood. For every time someone twisted your motivation and all you could do was say quietly, God knows my heart, heaven responded, yes, and I have it here in writing. The record is complete, and it does not look like what your accusers described. What they called failure, God calls faith under fire. What they mocked as naive, heaven recognizes as pure-hearted endurance. What they reduced to weakness was actually the most disciplined kind of strength. The strength to remain still when every human instinct said move, to trust God when every circumstance argued against trust. The season of examination is ending. The judge who saw all of it is now preparing to reveal the truth in the open, in the spaces where the accusations were spoken and the lies were circulated. The very lies they spread will begin to expose their own motives, because truth, when it finally moves, does not just correct the record. It illuminates the character of everyone who contributed to the false one. The stage that was used to diminish you will become the platform of your restoration. The same spaces that once amplified the wrong version of your story will now carry the right one. The Lord is not simply clearing your name. He is establishing your legacy, as Psalm 37:6 declares. He will make your righteousness shine like the dawn, your vindication like the noonday sun. Not a dim flicker in a corner, but a dawning, a noonday brightness, something that cannot be looked away from. What was whispered against you in shadow will be answered by light that cannot be disputed. Heaven's validation carries more weight than any earthly opinion ever could. When God defends you, no one can sustain the denial for long. Type my name is cleared now, chosen one. I need you to understand what is moving on your behalf right now, in this hour, in this moment while you receive these words. The holy anger of God is not the anger of a wounded man, not the rage of someone who was caught off guard and lost control of their emotions. It is something altogether different and altogether more powerful. It is the pure, consuming fire of perfect righteousness, rising with precision and purpose in defense of one he loves and has claimed as his own. This is what burns for you now. You have long mistaken his silence for indifference, and I understand why. Silence can feel like abandonment when you are in the middle of pain, but silence was never absence. It was the gathering of storm clouds above everything that rose against you, the quiet before a response that cannot be stopped once it begins. While you waited in pain, God was watching with holy restraint. He was measuring, weighing, recording every detail. He was building a case in heaven's record, not against you, but against every force and every voice that came against you without cause. He saw every word that pierced your heart, every scheme spoken in private that you never even knew about, every invisible assault that reached you through people who did not know they were being used. He felt the weight of everything pressed onto you without your deserving it, and he did not look away. There comes a moment when mercy steps back and justice steps forward. That moment has arrived. The holy anger of God is not chaos. It is not a destructive storm with no direction. It manifests as holy correction, as the precise and purposeful dismantling of everything that rose against his chosen one. He is not coming to destroy people made in his image, but to scatter the systems, the spirits, and the structures of accusation that mocked his name through their treatment of you. Because when heaven loves deeply, it defends fiercely. There is no version of fierce love that simply watches while the beloved is attacked without limit. You held your peace while others drew their swords. You waited for heaven's verdict while they continued to spread their version of events to anyone who would listen. You chose restraint in moments when retaliation was available and would have felt justified. And God said, "Vengeance is mine. I will repay." He said it with every breath of eternity standing behind those words as their guarantee. The demonic forces that fed on the lies spoken about you are being scattered now. Even as you read these words, even as your spirit begins to receive what heaven is releasing, the spiritual atmosphere around your name is shifting as justice rolls through the unseen realms. As Deuteronomy 32-36 promises, the Lord will vindicate his people and have compassion on his servants when he sees their strength is gone. That is exactly where you are. You have come to the end of what your own strength can produce, and it is in that precise place that God's strength rises to complete what only he has the power to complete. He is strongest in your weakness. He is most visible when you have stopped trying to manage what only he can fix. Type "He fights for me." Some who opposed you will not even understand why their plans suddenly begin to fall apart. They will experience confusion about why doors they expected to walk through begin to close. They will find their influence waning in ways that have no obvious natural explanation. Their voices will lose the reach they counted on. Their strategies will unravel at the seams without a clear cause they can identify or address. It will appear to them as ordinary misfortune, a run of bad luck, circumstances simply not cooperating. But you will know the truth. You will recognize what is happening because you were in the courtroom when heaven made its ruling. You heard the advocate speak. You know what was declared, and now you are watching the verdict work its way through the earth. One open door and one closed one at a time. Stay still through this. Do not gloat when you see it begin. Do not announce what you know to the people who wronged you. The fire of divine justice is sacred, and you were invited into the knowledge of it as a witness, not as a weapon bearer. Your vindication is not ammunition. It is a testimony for the glory of the one who fought for you when you could not fight for yourself. Stay humble in the season of your defense. Stay grateful through every hour of reversal. The correction of heaven is not entertainment. It is love restoring order, love refusing to allow injustice to have the final word, love insisting that what was built against truth will not stand. The case against you has crumbled to nothing. Every accusation has been heard and answered. Every lie has been silenced by truth that is older and more powerful than any word spoken in darkness. The enemy stands before the throne with nothing left to present. No argument he has not already exhausted. No charge that has not already been answered by the blood of the advocate. The gavel strikes. What was declared in heaven now begins its movement through the earth. The accuser collapses before the one who holds every moment of eternity in his hands. The case is over. The verdict is sealed and it cannot be appealed. Type "The accuser falls silent, my beloved," as heaven's court delivers this verdict over your life. Think of someone whose case is still being heard, someone still carrying shame they did not deserve, someone still living under the weight of false accusation, still wondering if God sees them, still waiting for the moment heaven rises in their defense. Sow a seed in their name right now, as a declaration that the same advocate who stepped forward for you is stepping forward for them. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. Type "My prayers are in the record now. I ask you, my child." Do you know why you were hidden? Do you understand why your light seemed to dim in seasons when others around you shone without apparent effort? Why your voice was silenced when you had truth burning within you that you were desperate to speak? Truth you knew was needed. Truth you watched go unspoken because no door opened for it. Why your path stayed still when every part of you was ready to move. It was not punishment. It was never punishment, though I know it felt like it more than once. Heaven hides what hell hunts. The very intensity of your assignment is the reason for the depth of your concealment. A vessel that is called to carry something significant cannot be prematurely exposed to the pressure of what it is meant to hold. You were never forgotten. You were being protected actively, intentionally, with the same care that a jeweler gives to a stone still being cut and polished, keeping it away from display until the facets are ready to catch the light the way they were designed to. Every delay had design. Every door that closed in your face was not rejection with a divine signature. It was divine redirection, steering you away from premature arrival into spaces that would have diminished rather than developed you. God saw what you could not see from your vantage point inside the process. He looked ahead into the season you are now entering and understood with perfect clarity that arriving there early without the formation the hidden season was producing would have broken you rather than built you into what the assignment requires. The wilderness you walked through was not punishment. It was preparation wearing a disguise so convincing that even faith could not always see through it. There were nights when you cried out asking why you were invisible, why others with what appeared to be less commitment and less sacrifice seemed to move forward while you remained exactly where you were. But heaven answered that cry with silence, because silence is God's most intensive classroom, and the lessons it teaches cannot be learned in any other environment. He was teaching you to hear without immediate external sound, to trust without visible corroborating evidence, to believe without public validation from anyone whose opinion you respected, to anchor yourself to a promise when every circumstance argued that the promise was either wrong or meant for someone else. These are not lessons that can be absorbed in comfort. They are learned in the wilderness, in the place where you have no choice but to find out whether God is enough when He is all you have. Every invisible season plants a truth that no visible season can produce on its own. When you cannot trace God's hand, when you cannot see the logic of the path you are on, when you cannot feel the warmth of His nearness, that is the moment you discover what your faith is actually built on, and yours held. Had He revealed you too soon, you would have arrived at your assignment with the skills but not the character, with the calling but not the depth, with the anointing but not the anchoring. You would have been praised before you were planted, and praise that arrives before planting produces pride rather than purpose. The applause would have come before the roots were deep enough to hold you through what comes after applause. He chose instead to bury you in holy obscurity, knowing that the deeper the burial, the greater the resurrection that follows. As Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, to everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. Your season of hiddenness served its sacred purpose. Now that purpose is complete, and the time of concealment is closing because the preparation has finally reached its fullness. Every disappointment that came in the hidden years carved wisdom into your bones that no teaching could have produced. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment until you can now recognize in moments what once would have taken you years to see. Every lonely night developed an intimacy with the presence of God that no public stage could ever replicate or replace. What you thought was darkness was divine incubation. The very thing you walked through that made you question whether your calling was real was actually the process that made it unshakable. You were not delayed. You were developed. You were not buried to be forgotten. You were buried to be preserved for the appointed time, the time that is now beginning. Type, I was hidden, not forgotten now. Hear me clearly, because this is something I need you to carry with you beyond this moment. The enemy will attempt to make you doubt everything that was just declared over you. He will wait until the emotion of this encounter begins to settle, until the weight of ordinary life returns, until the next difficult circumstance arrives. And then he will begin. The coming days may feel heavy. The silence may return as though nothing changed. The evidence of what was spoken in heaven's courtroom may not yet be visible to your natural eyes, and the enemy will point to that gap between the declaration and the visible evidence and try to fill it with doubt. He will whisper that the verdict was just emotion, just a moment of feeling stirred up by words, nothing that carries any real weight in the actual conditions of your life. He will point to your unchanged circumstances and say, "See, nothing happened. You are still in the same situation. If heaven had truly spoken, would things not already look different?" He will try to make the space between the declaration and the manifestation feel like proof that the declaration itself was false. He is skilled at this particular deception. He has practiced it for a long time. Do not believe him. The verdict of heaven does not depend on your feeling it immediately confirmed by visible evidence. The declaration does not require your constant emotional agreement to remain true and in force. What was spoken in the courtroom of eternity stands fully and completely, whether or not you can see its evidence in this present moment. In heaven's court, unlike any court on earth, there is no appeal process available to the losing party. What is declared from the throne is final from the moment it is spoken. The fulfillment will unfold through time, through a sequence of events that only the one who declared it fully understands. But the verdict itself is unchangeable from the moment it leaves the mouth of the judge. Your name was cleared the moment Christ said, "I have paid for this one." Nothing that happens on earth, no circumstance that arises, no voice that speaks against you can reverse what was spoken in that courtroom by the one who purchased your freedom. The enemy knows this. That is exactly why he does not try to fight the verdict directly. He knows he cannot overturn it. So his strategy shifts entirely to making you forget it, to eroding your confidence in what was declared until you stop living from it and start living from the old accusation again. He tries to replace the clarity of heaven's declaration with the fog of your present circumstances, to make the fog feel more real than the verdict. And if he succeeds in making you forget what was declared, you begin to live as though the old accusation still stands, as though the old shame is still accurate, as though the old identity is still the operating truth of your life. Do not let him accomplish that. Return to this truth every single time doubt rises. The courtroom has spoken. The advocate still stands. The decree is sealed and cannot be unsealed. Nahum 1-7 holds you through the fog. The Lord is good, a stronghold in the day of trouble. He knows those who trust in him. He knows you. He knows your name, and he knows exactly where you are standing. Hold on to that knowing. It is stronger than any fog the enemy can produce. Type, "I will not forget this." I know what it cost you to stay, my child. I know the weight of what you carried in the seasons when staying felt like the most unreasonable choice available to you. When others walked away, you stayed. When disappointment accumulated past the point that wisdom could easily justify, you stayed. When the silence stretched so long that faith began to feel like self-deception, you stayed. When people said you were wasting your time, when the evidence seemed to argue against everything you believed, when continuing felt like it demanded more than you had to give, you stayed, and I was watching every single moment of it. Not as a distant observer recording data, as a father who felt every weight you carried as though it were his own. I saw you choose trust when doubt was louder. I saw you open your mouth in worship when the song felt hollow and forced and the tears would not stop. I saw you keep your hand on what I placed in you even when the keeping cost you something real, something others would not have been willing to pay. I saw the prayers you prayed in the dark when no one was listening and there was no visible reward in sight. And I saw how much that cost you. I saw what you sacrificed to stay, the friendships you released rather than compromise what I showed you, the opportunities you declined because they required you to step outside of what I told you was right, the seasons of isolation you endured rather than settle for something I never intended for you. That faithfulness, quiet and unwitnessed by the world, is what is being honored now, not the performance that others could see and validate. The faithfulness in the dark, in the private moments, in the seasons when no one was watching and no applause was available. That is the faithfulness that moves heaven. Because you stayed through the wilderness, you will walk in what was promised on the other side, and the walking will feel different than it would have felt had you arrived there without the wilderness. You will carry an authority that only comes from having held on when letting go was easier. Because you stayed through the silence, you will now hear my voice in every season with a clarity you did not have before. The training of the hidden season calibrated your ear. You know how to listen now in ways you could not have known before the silence. Because you stayed through the false accusations, you will now wear the verdict of heaven as a testimony that speaks louder than anything your accusers ever said. You will not need to defend yourself in the days ahead. The defense has already been delivered. As Romans 8:31 declares, if God is for us, who can be against us? If he is for you, and he is completely, and without reservation, without condition, without limit, then everything that rose against you has already lost. The outcome was never truly in question. The only question was whether you would remain long enough to see the verdict manifested. And you did. Type, because I stayed, your calling is confirmed. Your path is defended. The decree of heaven is your covering now. Your shield, your ground, walk under it. Let it be the surface beneath your feet when doubt returns, because doubt will try to return in the gap between declaration and visible manifestation. When it does, do not fight it with willpower alone. Return to what was declared. Return to what was purchased. Return to the one who spoke your name in the courtroom of eternity and has not stopped speaking it since. Let Isaiah 61:7 settle into the deepest part of you. Instead of your shame, you shall have double. Instead of dishonor, you shall rejoice in your inheritance. What was stolen through false accusation will be returned in full measure, pressed down and running over. What was taken through misrepresentation will be restored with interest, because heaven does not merely repair what was broken. Heaven multiplies what was meant to destroy. The same measure of pain you endured through the hidden season will become the precise measure of the blessing poured out in what is coming. You are not returning to the person you were before the accusations came. You are not returning to the faith you had before the wilderness. You are stepping into who you were always meant to become, the version of you that required every single thing you walked through to be fully formed. The enemy will try to remind you of who you used to be. He will show you the old failures, the old shame, the old limitations, the old reasons why you might not be worthy of what heaven just declared. But you must tell him, that case is closed. The judge has ruled. The advocate has spoken. The verdict stands, and no voice from below can overturn what was declared from above. Go forward from this moment knowing that you are defended completely, that you are cleared permanently, that the same God who rose to speak your name before the throne is now walking beside you into the inheritance that was written for you before you were born. As Galatians 6:9 promised, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. You did not give up. The harvest is here. Before I speak this closing prayer over you, sow a seed as your act of agreement with everything the courtroom of heaven just declared over your life. Not because you must, because your yes to this verdict deserves an anchor, an act of faith that says, I believe what was spoken. I receive what was declared. I trust the one who defended my name. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. Every seed sown from this place of knowing will be honored by the one who defended your name, who paid for your freedom, and who has never once changed his mind about you. Type the verdict stands, Father God. I lift this prayer over every beloved soul who received this word today. You know their name. You know every weight they carried into this moment. You know every accusation that clung to them, every season of misunderstanding they endured, every tear that fell in the dark without witnesses. You saw it all, and you did not look away. Now, Lord, let the peace of heaven's verdict settle over them like a mantle they cannot remove. Let every false accusation that has followed their spirit lose its grip right now, in the name of Jesus. Let the light of your justice illuminate every shadow that slander cast over their name. Let every door that was closed by lies be opened by truth that cannot be denied. Let every relationship poisoned by false accusation be touched by your love and brought into healing. Let them walk forward from this day knowing beyond any doubt that their name is cleared in your courts, that their calling is confirmed by your voice, that their future is secured by covenant that no enemy can break. You went before them into the battle. You crushed what rose against them. You answered the accuser with the blood of your Son, and now you walk beside them into everything that was always meant to be theirs. Let them feel your presence, not just as comfort in difficulty, but as confirmation that the verdict is real and the inheritance is close. Let it be so. Let it stand, for your glory and their wholeness, forever and ever. Amen.